Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of the Grace-Filled Leader podcast, where we focus on creating balance in our lives and boldness in our spirit-driven leadership. Today's episode was inspired by a new project we started for frontline leaders at my day job. The goal is to create a safe space for failing forward. We all know that significant growth occurs when we embrace our mistakes within a culture that values humility and vulnerability. Today I want to talk about the power of humility in frontline leadership. Hey friend, have you grabbed a free consult with me yet? If not, what are you waiting for? Find out what Christian life coaching can do for you. This is your chance to start leading more effectively while living a more balanced life. So grab your spot today at gracefilledleader.com/work with me. Welcome to the Grace-Filled Leader podcast. Do you want better work-life balance? Do you get stuck in patterns of perfectionism and people-pleasing? Have you always been an overachiever but never really felt good enough, no matter how much outward success you achieve? Do you want more time for the things that matter most? Well, you are in the right place. Here on the Grace-Filled Leader podcast, we focus on spirit-driven success and share the secrets to having better work-life balance as a busy woman in leadership. Here you will learn how to set boundaries like a boss, find peace of mind, and reclaim your time for the things that matter most. Hi, I'm Tanya, a wife, mom, leader, and certified Christian life coach. For most of my life, I tried to find worthiness through achievement. I spent decades people-pleasing and pouring myself into my work. I was looking for my value through the approval of others. This led me to feel burned out, empty, and exhausted. I had no time or energy for myself or my family. I realized that I was wasting time and energy looking for validation in all the wrong places. But my life changed when I finally surrendered and God showed me a different way. It is my mission to help you start living the abundant life God has for you. If you're ready to become fueled by grace and find freedom from people-pleasing, if you're ready to multiply your time and impact as a Christian woman in leadership, this podcast is for you. Roll up your sleeves, sister friends. It's time to get after it. As the organizational leader on a subcommittee dedicated to fostering a positive environment for our leaders, we've decided to start this new project at work by creating a safe space for our frontline managers and supervisors to share their challenges and learn from one another. Our initiative is called Fess Up Friday, and the idea is pretty simple. Each month, frontline leaders are to bring a Fess Up related to whatever leadership development topic we're talking about, whether it's delegation, communication, crucial conversations, what have you. By leading with humility and vulnerability, sharing past mistakes and lessons learned, peer leaders, we think, can garner support from one another, find commonality in their challenges, and grow in confidence and competence through shared learning. And I'm incredibly encouraged by the group's engagement. They're sharing openly and authentically in a way they can't necessarily do completely with their direct reports or higher up leaders. It's really intended to be a safe space to be human. Now, my hope is that this group will see the value in demonstrating humility and vulnerability, not just with their peers, but also with their team members. When done appropriately, showing our humanness can be powerful in building trust and respect with our teams. Many leaders see admitting mistakes or being wrong as a sign of weakness, but in truth, sincere admission of mistakes, coupled with a genuine intention to do better in the future, is really a profound strength as a leader. Of course, if you keep making the same mistakes without changing, you will probably lose any trust you might have initially gained through humility and vulnerability. Conversely, never owning up to your mistakes will almost certainly erode trust respect, and confidence.
Now, I'm going to pause here to just give you a little example of my own mess up, fess up. Oh, good gravy. I did a live workshop not quite 2 weeks ago, and in hindsight, I made a mistake in where I did it because I was actually in Canada. We have an island cabin up in Canada, and we have satellite internet for our Wi-Fi, and it really always works great for all of my Wi-Fi needs and remote work. However, we had quite a bit of weather that particular week, and every time I tried doing virtual calls that had more than one person on them, I was noticing that my internet was unstable. Anyway, so I was debating of whether or not I should even have the workshop, but I figured I'd take a chance. Anyway, God bless the women that joined live, and if you're listening, thank you for your grace and patience, because despite my little prayer for technology to be cooperative, there were so many glitches. Well, at least from my perspective, there were so many glitches. It kind of lost connection a couple of times, and then one time when it came back online, they were kind of, I think, short-lived pauses, but without knowing it, when it came back online, my microphone had muted and I continued to do the presentation. And the way that my presentation screen was, I couldn't see the chat in my Zoom group in which these lovely ladies had been saying, "I can't hear her. Can anyone hear her?" And finally, some blessed soul jumped on and said, "I think you're muted." And so I looked, and sure enough, I was muted. So I had said, I don't know how many minutes worth of the presentation on mute. So then I had to back up and try to figure out where I had cut out, and then I'd gone on mute. Anyway, it was really humbling and sort of embarrassing, and I felt like, oh my gosh, this looks so like janky and unprofessional. But I carried on. I was grateful for those who stayed on and bared with me, whatever it was, for the presentation. And hopefully I did my best to piece together a replay that wasn't quite as janky. But anyway, it wasn't my best work. And I'm just going to come clean and say it wasn't my best work. It certainly wasn't my intent to do a crappy job at the workshop. It did have some really good information, and I certainly hope that somebody got some kernels of wisdom from it in spite of all of the glitches. But if I would never take chances and be willing to fail, so to speak, and be imperfect, what kind of an example am I for what I share on this show? The reality is there are just things that happen that are outside of our control, and all that we can do is do our best to learn from it and move forward. And I'm sure sometime in the future there will be some kind of crazy stuff that happens and things just won't be perfect, but I'm going to keep trying. And what I learned this time is maybe I shouldn't do webinars on the island in Canada because it's less predictable how my signal will cooperate. So future workshops will probably be back at home on mainland with traditional Wi-Fi. Anyway, that's my example of mess up, fess up. I cannot hide my mistakes. That was out there for the world to see, live and in person. But it doesn't mean that I should stop trying. And the same goes for us as leaders. And I think and I hope that people can respect when we make mistakes, that we fess up and just own that our vulnerability and the fact that we're not human, and just do our best to learn from it, move forward, and hopefully have something better come from it in the future.
As leaders, we really must model the behavior we want to see in our teams. We want our team members to feel comfortable coming to us with their concerns or their mistakes. Why would they want to take the risk of being vulnerable if they don't see it modeled and reinforced by their leader? Openly discussing errors and mistakes allows for shared problem solving, growth, and relationship building. I'm fortunate to have and have had leaders who really value building trust and relationship with those they lead. Some of the times I've most appreciated my leader is when he shares his humanness. His humility and vulnerability create a safe space for me to be open about my challenges. He celebrates my victories and supports me in my struggles. Honestly, I rarely need him to fix something for me. Mostly, I just need a safe space to be human. I believe that's how those we lead feel also. They need a safe space to be human. They want to be celebrated for their wins and supported in their struggles. They want to be seen and heard. Think about what you need to feel safe sharing openly with someone. Isn't it easier to trust someone who is open and authentic with you? Think about your relationships, such as your marriage. If your spouse does something hurtful, what is most likely to bring reparation? Is it if they ignore their mistake and pretend everything's fine and normal? Or is it if they admit their mistake, apologize, and seek to improve? Most of us would choose the latter. The same principles apply in the workplace. We won't build relationship with our team members if we resist fessing up to our mess-ups. Instead, we are likely to erode trust and respect and eventually create a disengaged work team. There is immense power in humility, my friends, so don't be afraid to show it as a leader. The key to turning failure into success is to be honest about it, learn from it, and take action to improve. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Grace-Filled Leader Podcast. And remember, showing humility and vulnerability can transform your leadership and build stronger and more trusting relationships with your team. As always, I pray that the Lord fills you with gratitude, peace, and His amazing grace.
I pray this episode blessed you, spoke to you, or encouraged you in some way. If so, please share it with a friend and head on over to Apple Podcasts to leave me a review. That's the only way for me to know if you're enjoying the show. Nothing blesses me more than to hear from you. Also, come on over to our free Facebook community. This is a great place for us to support one another on our faith and leadership journeys. You can find the link to the group in the show notes or go to gracefilledleader.com/community. If you have questions or content ideas for the show, please send me a message on SpeakPipe or via email. Go to gracefilledleader.com/contact and leave a written or voice recorded message. I would love to know how I can best serve you on the podcast. Now to Him who can do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us. Ephesians 3, verse 20. Until next time, my friends, God bless.